Not a licensed physician, not giving medical advice. I know I already have a video on this, but it never hurts to make another one. You say things slightly differently, plus it's newer in your list of videos and people can find it easier. And yeah, not being a licensed physician means I do not need to wear a t-shirt underneath my lab coat. So there are two main types of gynecomastia, and there's a subtype to one of the types. Two types are glandular and fatty. Glandular separates into just glandular and glandular with lactation. Lactation is due to prolactin. You might notice that name's interesting. Prolactin sounds a little bit like lactation. Well, it's not a coincidence. Most likely how they named it. Molecule that caused lactation, prolactin. Okay, so what causes glandular tissue? Well, primarily estrogen, but estrogen with progesterone can synergize. Estrogen with prolactin can synergize. What causes fatty deposit? Once again, estrogen. Well, I say estrogen, but it's estrogens. So what can you do about it? Well, let's go by non-lactating gynecomastia. And also, just so you know, fatty tissue is not considered true gynecomastia. I figured I'd lump it in there. Ironic, because you might get a lump. But yeah, it's not true gynecomastia. It's just fat. Different hormonal levels in the body change where you deposit fat. So if you lose weight, you will lose that. If you lose weight plus alter your hormonal levels, you might lose that faster because your hormonal levels dictate where you gain and where you lose weight first and last. But that's just a matter of weight loss. Now let's get to the real gynecomastia, the glandular tissue. When it first develops, you will notice an itching, a sensitivity, a burning. Then you'll notice a small little pea or airsoft BB, whatever you want to call it, like a little tiny thing, and it'll grow. And who knows how big it will grow too. It could grow, just a little bit. It could grow a lot. But if you don't want it to grow, it's a good idea to immediately block the signal. Now, we can't actually immediately block the signal because it's a genomic mechanism that just cannot be instantly turned off. But we can immediately block the signal to initiate the genomic mechanism so that it will turn off as soon as possible. Now, perhaps someday we can figure out a way to actually block the genomic aspect of it at that level. But for now, the best thing we can do is block the signal that estrogen gives to turn on those genes. And you do not do that by taking aromatase inhibitors. A lot of people say, oh, you gotta take Arimidex, you gotta take letrozole. Yes, but that's not what's going to stop your gynecomastia the fastest. Why? Because that only inhibits the conversion of testosterone or other androgens into estrogens. You still got all those estrogens you already have that are causing your gynecomastia. They were high enough to give you gynecomastia. They're going to remain high enough to give you gynecomastia for quite some time before they get low enough that they will no longer signal the different gene transcription. And then even after they don't signal the different gene transcription, you got to wait for that gene transcription to actually turn off. Like I was saying, and calling it genomic mechanism, it's the gene transcription. So what's a lot better idea is you immediately take I was about to call it an estrogen antagonist, but they're not actually estrogen antagonists. They're mixed agonist antagonists. They agonize estrogen receptors in some tissue, and they antagonize estrogen receptors in other tissue. Luckily for us, there are these drugs called SERMs, selective estrogen receptor modulators, which are antagonists in the mammary glandular tissue. They are partial agonists in the bone, which is good. You don't want to be antagonizing estrogen receptors in your bone. Now, if you're an adult and you're on androgens, probably not that important. If you're younger and you should not be on androgens, anyways, but if you are, and you block the estrogen receptors in your bones, not good. I mean, it's good if you want to grow taller, not good if you want stronger bones. But yeah, you want to take a SERM like tamoxifen, raloxifene, clomiphene right away so that you immediately block the estrogen receptors in the glandular tissue. And then after some amount of time, hopefully only a few days, but it can take much longer, the gene transcription will turn off. And hopefully your body can decide to somehow get rid of that little bit of tissue that it made, or you just stop it there. It's small enough that it's not visible. The body does seem to be able to get rid of some amount of glandular tissue if it's stopped very early, but it's generally permanent. Now, a lot of people will make a mistake in thinking that it's not permanent because they get the tissue and it's very swollen when it's growing, and then they stop the growth and it shrinks down. I actually made this mistake myself, thinking that, it's getting better, but the thing is, it's just a state of swelling. I have gynecomastia myself. Sometimes it will swell up, sometimes it shrinks down, but I have come to learn that it is ultimately always the same size. It's just different volumes. Same amount of tissue, different volume. I've seen it in other people as well. You can get it to shrink down, but it's probably not going to go away. So yeah, the second you feel that itching, that burning, that irritation, just that weird feeling there, especially if you notice there's a lump, good idea to immediately take tamoxifen, raloxifene, clomiphene, or if you find a different SERM. But bottom line is, you don't want to just take anastrozole or letrozole. Oh, but letrozole is going to crash your estrogen. There's nothing better than that. Maybe, but we need time, like the fastest option. Letrozole may be the best option if you ignore time. But when you take time into consideration, you need something that's going to immediately act, and that is a SERM. Now, you should also take an aromatase inhibitor with the SERM, because you don't want to just block the receptor and leave your levels of estrogens way up here. You could just block the receptor the whole time and leave your levels up here, but it's not good for the rest of your body either to have super high estrogen. So that's why you take an aromatase inhibitor also, and you bring the levels down. Hopefully, like that line at the bottom of my TV is where you get gyno. Hopefully you can bring them down to here and stop the SERM so that now you don't have that screwing with your receptors in your whole body, and you continue without gynecomastia growing with proper hormonal balance. Now you could also lower your dosage of aromatizing androgen. That's a good idea. There was something else I was thinking of. Oh yeah, the reason I said that letrozole may be better if it weren't for the time factor is that, in my experience, the antagonism that SERMs provide is not very strong. That's for me. I find that I need really high doses to antagonize my gynecomastia. So, for me, they are not ineffective, they're effective, but they're not extremely effective at antagonizing the receptors. And actually, medical studies have shown, I don't remember the exact number, but that you need something like 1,000 times more tamoxifen molecules than estradiol molecules to block the receptor. In other words, it's a really, really, really weak antagonist. Its binding is, we don't know for sure, but probably its binding is very, very poor. Especially if you have good metabolism of molecules, you're going to need to take a very large dose. I'm not saying you need to take 5 grams, obviously. Like typical dose, 10 to 50 milligrams, probably going to need the higher side, that 50, 60 milligram area. If you're just trying to get some negative feedback to get your testicles working better, maybe 10 milligrams will be sufficient. But for gynecomastia, the dosage, which has been, maybe for you, you're going to be different. Everyone's different. But there is good reason to believe that you need a large dose. So yeah, it's a great emergency option because it's the only thing that's going to work that quickly. But it's not a good maintenance option, especially because you are antagonizing and agonizing different estrogen receptors in a very unnatural way. Estrogen should be throughout your whole body, agonizing all of your estrogen receptors to a certain level. But now you're agonizing some, you're antagonizing others, and it's all out of balance. Not a good idea. Can you take low dose of tamoxifen year-round to increase testicular function? You probably can. Is it the healthiest thing? Probably not. Is it going to be that bad for you? Maybe not. But especially the dosages needed for gynecomastia, that's not something that you want to continue long-term if you don't need to. Better to lower your dosage of aromatizing androgens or take an aromatase inhibitor. But as soon as you feel the gynecomastia forming, you want to block those receptors ASAP. If you have lactation, that's a prolactin issue. Medications like cabergoline and pramipexole, they are dopamine agonists, which means they block prolactin. I forget the exact mechanism. It's not important. The bottom line is that when you have dopamine, you don't have prolactogenic effects in the breast tissue, in the mammary glands. And although it is mostly estrogen that will grow the glandular tissue, there is reason to believe that prolactin and progesterone will also get the cells to hyperplaze to create more breast tissue cells. Good reason to believe that they're synergistic, but there may even be some independent effects, although most of the reason for gynecomastia, glandular gynecomastia, is estradiol, is estrogens. That's very obvious. Some people nowadays, endocrinologists, try to say that estradiol, estrogens, have no role in gynecomastia and that it's purely prolactin, or do they say it's purely progesterone? I don't remember because it's utter insanity. I've actually spoken to an endocrinologist who was like, oh yeah, I was at the meeting with all the endocrinologists and we discussed the new findings that gynecomastia isn't because of estrogen. Oh, sure, yeah, brilliant. You guys are a bunch of geniuses. You discovered that dehydration isn't due to lack of water. Wow. You discovered heat isn't due to sunlight. I don't know, you discovered that the sky isn't blue. It's utter insanity to say that estrogens, primarily estradiol, are not responsible for glandular gynecomastia. So yeah, I already covered the fat one. You just need to lose weight. Altering hormonal balance will dictate where you lose the weight from first. But in terms of glandular gynecomastia, it's primarily estrogens. You can block them immediately with serums, but it's better to just lower the total amount in your body. Keep in mind that that does take time. You have to wait for the estrogens to clear your body. And then after they've cleared your body, you have to wait additional time for the gene transcription to turn off. So there is a big, say you were injecting testosterone enanthate or something, or cypionate, or even worse, decanoate. You're going to have to wait several weeks for your estrogen levels to fall. Then you're going to have to wait several days, maybe even weeks, for that gene transcription to turn off. That's a lot of time that your gynecomastia can keep growing. Now you see why it's not a good idea to start a cycle without having other medications. Horrible idea to just get some testosterone, start using it, and oops, I got gynecomastia. I guess I'm just going to let it grow for a few months until my levels drop low enough and the gene transcription turns off. not a good idea if you value not having gynecomastia. I hope this video helps you. Anything else? I don't think so. Oh, cabergoline, not good long term. That would just lower your dosage of prolactogenic steroids, typically 19-nor, like nandrolone, trenbolone, what's that other one? Ment. I don't know the full name of it. But yeah, better idea to lower those, because long-term usage of cabergoline, considering it's also a serotonin agonist and agonizes the 5-HT2B serotonin receptor, you're going to get hypertrophy of the heart. In particular, it seems hypertrophy of the valves. Not good. So yeah, keep that in mind. Keep in mind that crashing your estrogen also has side effects for every part of your body, from your brain to your bones. Everything will suffer if your estrogen is crashed. So don't crash your estrogen. If this is the level at the bottom of my TV that you need to be below to not get gynecomastia, to not have erectile dysfunction, to not have high blood pressure, get just below it. Because yes, estrogen will not just give you gynecomastia. It will get the most dangerous thing is actually the high blood pressure. And the unpleasant thing is gynecomastia and erectile dysfunction. Actually, no, it's not. We won't have erectile dysfunction, but you'll have inability to ejaculate. Maybe some erectile dysfunction, but most likely it will get up really good. It just won't shoot anything out of it. And you can not shoot anything out to hit the button, but you can use your finger to click like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and check out my other videos. Hope this helps you, and help me out with the subscribe and like and comment.